Thank you very much, Mr. President. May I just get the ball rolling while you think of your questions? Why did you apply to join the Commonwealth? What are the practical advantages to Rwanda of Commonwealth membership?
There are many advantages and practical ones, starting with economic ones. If you look at our economy and how we relate in the part of our sub-region, for Rwanda, our exports and imports go through neighboring countries such as Tanzania, Uganda, and Kenya to be able to access the two ports of Dar es Salaam and Mombasa. A lot of trade, in fact, 85% about of our trade goes on with these countries of our region. A lot of collaborative efforts go on within the region that bring Rwanda to relate more with countries that are members of the Commonwealth, speak English, and so on and so forth. But even if you look at economic and technological aspects of how development takes place, for us, that made it more sensible for Rwanda to be a member of such a countries that bring these assets for our own development.
Charles Cullimore, formerly British High Commissioner in Uganda. We have met on a couple of occasions, Mr. President. I wonder, thinking about possible prospective investors into Rwanda, I've really got two questions. I think one, which is about your views on the EPA agreement with the EU, and you mentioned in your talk, you made a reference to unequal trade relations. There's a certain amount of inequality, I think, in that. I wonder if you'd like to comment, and whether you think it will be of benefit ultimately to Rwanda. But then the related question in many investors' minds, I think, and it's a much more political one, is the continuing conflict and unsettled situation on your border in eastern Congo. And I think it'd be very interesting if you could say something about your view of the prospects for a final settlement there and a resolution of the problems, including the problem of the Interahamwe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Starting with the EPA, the Economic Partnership Agreements that Rwanda and the other countries in sub-Saharan Africa mainly are forging with the European Union. And what we've done in the East African community, we've preferred to approach it more as a region than just as individual countries carrying out these negotiations. And that strengthens our position, and therefore, most likely, we'll have a better outcome. But there have been discussions going on, and I should say, every meeting our people have with the European Union officials, there is an improvement. I shouldn't say there is better understanding, but because even originally I think the understanding is there, but the will to, based on that understanding and do what is fair to both sides, is always what is lacking. So it's not so much that knowledge is lacking about the imbalance and the need to remove that imbalance, but I think as people speak with one voice, as we act as a region more instead of as individual countries, there is more receptiveness in moving along. So I look forward and think that at some point there will be a fair deal, or even if it is not so fair as it should be, we have a starting point and then keep improving on that as time goes on. That's the way it is today. Otherwise, the way it is, or the level at which people are in understanding each other, if we went ahead just blind and accepted it, and it would create some disadvantages, certainly more to the African side, to the East African side, for that matter. But still, we should say it's better than nothing. It's better than having no framework where matters of such kind are discussed. Then the conflict in the neighboring country and issues that are cross-border in nature that cause insecurity, and therefore that would affect investment. It is very understandable how continued conflict would affect investment. There are certain issues that must be sorted out if we are to realize the levels of investment that we need to have in our region. But that's why there have been ongoing efforts for quite some time now to actually address these particular issues that affect the security of our region. This has gone on for a long time. It should have been sorted out long ago. But there are things that are never paid enough attention, or when it is done very late. For example, here what I mean, or if you look back, all the efforts that have been put into addressing these problems in the Great Lakes region have been towards more dealing with the consequences rather than the root causes. And we've repeated this hundreds of times, that all partners concerned, members of the sub-region, and our partners from outside of our continent, we need to really get together and look at the root causes and tackle those, even if we have to deal with the outcomes or the consequences of this. Because when we deal with the tragedies that come out of the situation, when we want to give response to refugees that are being created, when we want to take care of the women that are raped and or suffer the violence of the conflict and so on and so forth, that needs to be done because it is urgent, it is immediate, and we have to do it. But you should be doing that. One needs to be doing that as you also address what is causing it. If the focus is on dealing with what is happening and not causing it, that's why it has taken so long in our region. But increasingly, we are seeing now more efforts also going deeper and looking at the root causes and people willing to get together and try and address that. We've done our part. Today, our government, Rwanda's government and the Congolese government have been communicating in a much better way and working together and identifying these root causes. And we are still mobilizing the external partners to support this so that, one, it is owned by the people that are directly affected of our two countries. If I use Rwanda and the DRC as an example, there are other things happening in other countries of our region. And the partners are also beginning to probably slowly understand and are supporting the initiatives to deal with the root causes rather than always dealing with the consequences.